record trading, the stock market gambled $10 million in the belief that the coal's offer of $3 a share is not enough to gain control of the retailing giant. This report from finance editor Michael Pascoe.
It was clear from the start of trading that the takeover battle for Myer is just beginning. A rush of buyers are prepared to pay more than the $3 a share Coles is offering for the department store group. Speculators are punting that either Coles will increase its offer or that defensive action by Myer will boost the price.
Working class hero is something to be. A working class hero is something to see. I want money. Oh yeah, that's what I want. Hey, Frank, I want money. That's what I want.
In come the dollars, in come the cents, to replace the pounds and the shillings and the pence. Be prepared, folks, when the coins begin to mix on the 14th of February, 1966.
Who are you?
I'm Dollar Bill, and I've come to tell everyone that decimal currency will be here from the 14th of February, 1966.
Each broker in the country has a representative on the trading floor of the stock exchange. That representative conducts the business on the floor of the exchange for the client. It really is an auction market system. Buyers and sellers bid so that the client finishes up getting the best price. It's a very exciting place. There really is nothing quite like it. On a busy day, it can appear like bedlam.
Green bushes sold when I want. Green bushes I'll sell up when I want.
To the uninitiated, it can be very noisy, very exciting, people running around, but really there is an underlying purpose to it all.
What's your Kelbarra market be?
Tonight, the crash of '87. Around the world, share market pandemonium.
$60 billion wiped off in Australia alone.
Eyewitness News with Steve Liebman and Robin Johnston.
Good evening. The stock market sale of the century continued around the world today with more than $60 billion wiped off the value of Australian shares in the past 30 hours. At the end of the day's trading on the Sydney Stock Exchange, the market's leading indicator, the All Ordinaries Index, had fallen 515 points. As the selling stampede continued around the world, some economists are now forecasting the start of a worldwide recession. With all eyes back on New York's Wall Street and the London Exchange, which incidentally began trading again half an hour ago, we begin our coverage of day 2 of the big crash with this report from Daryl Hutchison.
The Sydney Stock Exchange 15 minutes before opening, the calm before the collapse.
CIG, sell at 420 CIG.
Here was history that no one wanted to make, as Australian investors played follow the leader in a line that stretched from Wall Street right around the world. The panic was unprecedented. Sell orders across the board sending prices plummeting, beyond the most pessimistic of predictions.
No buyers, no one's buying. It's really, in fact, it's very, very scary. It's a collapse. It's worse than 1929.
But even then, no single day's trading came close to today, with the All Ordinaries Index falling 515 points, wiping off 25%, or a massive $65 billion in share value. Among the biggest falls, News Corporation, its share value at one stage almost halved to $11. Among the biggest individual losers, Rupert Murdoch and Robert Holmes à Court.
Have you ever seen a pre-trading adjustment like this before? No, man, nothing like this. What's it showing?
Well, basically, there's no buyers in the market. You can just look up there, BHP 850 offer. There's just no buyers anywhere.
Have you ever seen a pre-market adjustment like this before?
I'm really too busy to talk. I'm sorry.
What's your prediction?
We're in a lot of trouble.
From 10 o'clock on the dot, it was bedlam. The Poseidon boom of the 60s hadn't seen it. This was capitalism in its worst collapse.
Back one! Materials sell at 40!
As brokers broke the bad news to the few clients able to reach them, the despair was everywhere.
I can't get you out of these stocks because there's no buyers. The market at the moment's down 312 points. There's no sign of any recovery. It's a worldwide financial crisis, and Sydney has not been immune. You're seeing living history here, mate.
Start spreading the news. I'm leaving today. I want to be a part of it. New York, New York. These vagabond shoes are longing to stray right through the very heart of it. New York, New York. I want to wake up in a city that doesn't sleep and find I'm king of the hill, top of the heap. These little towns are melting away. I'll make a brand new start of it in old New York. If I can make it there, I'll make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York. Steve Callan here.
We've got the handle. We've got the same.
I'm gonna make a brand new start of it in old New York. And if I can make it there, I'm gonna make it anywhere. It's up to you, New York, New York, New York.
It's a year today since the crash of '87, the almighty plunge that wiped billions of dollars from world stock markets. Many called it the end of the world, and while that didn't happen, the ensuing 12 months has shaken out the industry.
Trading at the Sydney Stock Exchange today. Quiet compared with frantic scenes 12 months ago as the market reeled after plummeting 500 points. The mention of that anniversary still sends shockwaves through the exchange. The memory of share prices climbing to record levels before the inevitable fall that wiped off $8 billion. 1 year later, analysts say the market crashed because prices were far too high.
Hello and welcome to the 7:30 report. We start this week by spending a frenzied day on the stock exchange floor and look ahead to what we can expect when Wall Street opens tonight. How Michael Yabsley's pledge to get tough with prisoners has hit their children, and the sport experiencing a boom in casualties, ballooning. Less than an hour before it closed on Friday, the New York Stock Exchange suffered a dramatic fall in prices. 2 years after the October 1987 crash, the events were distressingly familiar. This morning, after the small New Zealand market suffered heavy losses, all eyes were firmly focused on Australia, the first major stock exchange to open after the close of New York. Maeve O'Mara spent the day on the floor of the Sydney Exchange to see the reaction after 2 days of waiting and worrying.
Well, it's a big down.
How much do you think go down?
Futures are down about 160-ish points, so it has to be down 120 to 140 points.
In the first 7 minutes, the market fell by a staggering 14%. 8 minutes later, it was back to around 7%, but the frenzy was on.
Bond media back 19. Bond media back 19.
Renee Rivkin's gold worry bead certainly got a workout.
ANZ on the buyer, ANZ.
And some traders made sure they'd still be able to hear by lunchtime.
ANZ, sell it. Sell it, ANZ. BTR or buy 44 BTR.
It's 10:30 now. What's been happening in the last half hour?
Well, the market was down substantially on the opening, as we expected it would follow the Dow down. We had early indications it was down 200 points, but the computers are a fair way behind, so we don't quite know whether that is accurate or not. It's showing now currently down 150 points. It's actually performing a little better than a lot of people thought. The only worry is what's going to happen in Japan and New York tonight again.
There were many anxious faces in the public gallery, but some had seen it all before.
Some things in life are bad, they can really make you mad. Other things just make you swear and curse. When you're chewing on life's gristle, don't grumble, give a whistle. And this'll help things turn out for the best.
Thanks, buddy.
Always look on the right side of life. Always look on the light side of life.
Is that a moving picture?
If life seems jolly rotten, there's something you've forgotten, and that's to laugh and smile and dance and sing. When you're feeling in the dumps, don't be silly chumps. Just purse your lips and whistle, that's the thing. Aim, always look on the right side of life. Always look on the right side of life.
Hey, Mick Casey.
Because one day you're gonna get caught with your pants down.
For life is quite absurd, and death's the final word. You must always face the curtain with a bow.
After 29 years, the excitement of floor trading will give way to the precision of electronic trading. When the change starts on Monday, it'll mean the end of the road for floor operators, chalkies, and a gang of spectators. Maeve O'Mara reports.
If there's ever another stock market crash like that of 1987, it won't look like this. The frantic trading of Black Monday will all take place on a computer screen. From next week, stock exchanges in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane will all be as quiet as this. Shares will be traded on computer, so there won't be any more boards, any more chalkies, and for a lot of people that have worked here, any more fun.
Down here, the best thing that's ever happened on the trading floor is that you've got all different types of individuals that come from all different walks of life. You've got young blokes, old guys. In more recent years, you've had a number of ladies who started operating. And basically, down here, the camaraderie and the friendships between people has meant it's been a kind of club, which, with the advent of automated trading, is now gone forever.
The Traders Club spawned a forest of cellular telephones, red power-dressing ties, and a closeness that will be hard to match from behind a computer screen.
On to finance and an historic day at the Australian Stock Exchange with the demise of floor trading and the end of the chalkies, whose job it was to scribble up the share price movements. They've been overtaken by automation. From now on, prices will be displayed on electronic display screens. Some traders and chalkies weren't sure how to take it, wearing both party hats and black armbands. Gone are the frantic days of the late 60s minerals boom, when a good chalky was worth his weight in gold. And on a quiet day at the close of trade this afternoon, the chalk dust settled forever. Now they'll seek other jobs, but by the looks of their writing, they could possibly try medicine.
The end of an era in the world of finance this afternoon as the stock exchange chalkies wrote up their last bids. It started off like any other day in the bear pits, brokers shouting and waving, chalkies running and scratching. The black armbands were the only sign that things were not quite right. From next week, the boards will be replaced by computer screens and brokers will trade from their offices. There were emotional scenes at the close of business this afternoon as the stock exchange let its hair down. The chalkies and many others are out of a job, but despite the hard times, they made sure they went out with a bang and not a whimper.
A century-old tradition came to an end for the Australian Stock Exchange today with the abolition of trading floors. From now on, there'll be no more chalkies, blackboards or screaming brokers, just impersonal computer screens.
It's seen fortunes won and lost and been the battleground for takeovers and share raids. In October 1987, the attention of the nation was focused on this room, where billions of dollars were lost in the Great Crash. But today, the trading floor was subdued, with just a hint that all would not be the same again. From Monday, exchanges around the country will be linked by computers in various offices. No more yelling and shouting, no more human contact, and no more chalkies. According to most brokers, the exchange will lose its soul.
I guess that's the view that is being expressed probably by some of the old traders who've been around for a long time, and I can understand their view. We'll be doing our very best to ensure that the stock exchange's visibility is well and truly maintained in the public eye.
This afternoon they gathered in their hundreds to witness the end of an era and take part in the wake. But the reaction to the closing bells was unusually restrained. The trading floor won't disappear completely. It will be preserved with computer screens replacing blackboards. But the chalkies won't be preserved. The last 4 of them have been retrenched. Andrew Hall, SBS News.
It's been an emotion-charged afternoon on the Australian Stock Exchange, but nothing to do with falling prices or rising company debt. Instead, it was the end of an era for the trading floor, with brokers and chalkies the latest victims of computerisation.
The
The trading floor has been the public face of the stock exchange. Over the years, tens of thousands have passed through the viewing gallery to watch the trade. The boards around the country have shown many of our corporate high flyers soar and crash just as quickly. But now it's gone.
It's an emotional day for the exchange. It's a system that's been in operation for more or less 105 years is going and won't be repeated. The buzz of the marketplace is going to disappear.
While most of the brokers will return to their firm's trading room, it's the end of an era for the chalkies, who recorded and matched buyers and sellers.
It has to be. It's inevitable, so, but yeah, it will definitely take out all the excitement of the trading floor.
From Monday, all trading will be done by computer. Seats, the stock exchange automated trading system, has been used in Australia for the last 3 years. Ironically, Seats was first used for trading 20 stocks on the day of the 1987 crash, when the market dropped 30%. But despite that infamous beginning, not everyone expects it to be exciting.
As far as I'm concerned, it's going to be awfully boring, but then, of course, that's not the industry's concern, my boredom or otherwise.
At 4 o'clock this afternoon, the bell signalled the end of trading for the last time. While the beer flowed in a celebration come wake, for many it was worse than the crash of '87. Then the market lost its innocence. Now, they say, it's lost its personality.
Chalkies no longer exist, and Paul Hibbard has the dubious honour of being one of the last chalkies in Australia. Floor trading and chalkies have been at the centre stage of the stock market for over 100 years, almost as long as the exchange has existed in Australia. You saw them perform during the '86 boom and then the '87 crash, acting out a familiar drama which for most of us is harder to predict than a game of two-up. But it hasn't been a good few years for the stock market. In fact, at times there's so little business, the hub of the financial world seems a little more like a playground. But as of today, these are sights you'll never see again. Going the way of all flesh, the stock market is being computerised.
The idea of doing away with manual trading systems and using the computer has been around for a long time, many, many years. Certainly trades can be executed far more quickly, far more efficiently. A client can, for example, ring up his broker. He can hang on to the telephone. The broker can sit in front of his terminal, do the trade for him and tell him instantly what the price has been and how many shares he's traded. It can be done just like that.
But not all agree.
There are so many things wrong that it's not funny. I think one of the things is that the advertising loss to people generally who had a place to come and see how stock exchanges work, that's gone. That's millions of dollars worth of advertising gone forever. There's just no positives. I mean, all the arguments about cost saving, I believe, are specious. When the markets get busy, stockbroking firms will have to have many multiples of the current numbers of operators to effectively transfer the same number of securities as they could do on the trading floor.
The decision has stirred an acrimonious debate. In New York and Hong Kong, the exchanges have been computerised, but they've still kept a trading floor. The decision to abolish them here means the loss of 10 jobs in Sydney and 23 nationwide.
I had no idea it'd be now, but yeah, that's the way it goes.
The floor gives you the ability to feel markets at a glance, because you can feel the atmosphere of people, you can feel the way people are thinking, you can actually talk to people. People are actually quite fun to talk to occasionally. And now what you're going to get is people sitting and pressing buttons all day. I don't know how anyone will be able to judge the trend of a market without seeing a market.
Bill's just said something to me. What do you want, Bill?
Whatever the pros and cons of the decision, everyone agrees the stock market will lose its soul.
How does it feel for you now, knowing that all these guys have to leave?
Oh, loss of a family for a start. And I guess the redundancy interviews that we've just had are probably the hardest thing to sort of give them a reference and wish them all the best in the future.
I've met so many nice people, really. You know, you think this industry's pretty buggered, but they're really top people.
It was a day of folly and photos. Then, at 4 o'clock, a century of tradition came to an end. The blackboard jungle is no more.
Computers are replacing the shouts of traders and the sight of chalkies rushing to write up changes in stock prices. Robin Wade has been to Sydney Stock Exchange for the last moments of the chalky era.
A liquid lunch marked the beginning of the end for those who'd come to know the trading floor of 20 Bond Street, Sydney, as their second home.
This is progress, then let's go back to horse and carts.
It was the last time to view from the public gallery young men on a catwalk who, for 30 years, had upheld the open outcry system of doing business.
Is your family?
It is, yes.
You brought them here because it's an historic day?
Yes, just to give them the sight of the way things used to be.
A piece of history going by the wayside, so I thought I'd come down and have a look for the last time.
Computer screens are the new face of the financial world. Chalkies in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane bit the dust on Friday. A thin market and technology, the fatal combination that has made them a thing of the past.
Chalking, I've been doing it for 3 years and I love it. The last 3 years have been 3 of the greatest years of my life.
Being a chalky provided the start to many a stockbroking career, but not anymore.
7 months, been chalky before, moved up from the south coast. So, like mum and dad are all down there, so I'm on my own.
Paul Hibbard, David McCulloch, Shane Thomas and Bill Blake will go down in history as the last chalkies at the Sydney Stock Exchange. Some see the introduction of computer trading as putting brokers around Australia on an equal footing. But old hands believe they'll lose their feel for business when the roar of competition fades.
I can sort of be talking to or buying something there, and somebody offers something down here. I can buy it down there and do this and do that because I'm standing here listening to all.
You're going to lose all that.
And I can do all that business. Everybody's very sad. Everybody's full of booze and nobody cares. We're all back on machines and it's a different world.
It's almost 4 p.m. on September the 28th, 1990. Any moment now, the chalkies will be no more.
Aware they were part of a closing chapter, traders gave it their best in scenes reminiscent of the heady days before the crash of '87. The public had come to witness the hour the stock exchange lost its personality.
Just got to get out there and get another job.
Awfully glad I met you. Cheerio, toodaloo. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Friday's rompers on it as well. Put 10 guys on it, we'll sell it for $1 million, we'll get 100 grand each, maybe a year's sell or something. Let's go! Books further down. Adam, oh, you want to get it? Leave me alone when you roll. What are you doing? Me? Yeah. Transferring. Where? Western's 8 million. No?
If you want me, come and get me. Don't have a chance if you don't move now. I'm not waiting any longer. You know that I'm playing to win this time. When you make your move.
Better get used to that. I was on the phone, unfortunately. Wealth of experience, very wealthy young man. Stand behind the camera.
I'm doing my ass.
Must have missed you. Hey, speak to mister.
Group sales revenue, $145,000. Group operating loss, $149,000. Group extraordinary item.
Just read it.
sorry, up 105% since 530.
Just tonight I stood before the tavern. In the glass I saw strange reflection. Was that long